Hi folks, and welcome to Cooking According to Eddie, and today I'm going to show you how to make a basic tomato sauce which can be a base for all kinds of dishes. Next up I'm going to do a chicken curry. Once again, you can use something different to chicken. Chickpeas work really well, lentils work really well, and you can get them canned. You'd add those after the sauce, much like you would with corn. But for this, taking a slightly different approach, I'm going to be using less of the sauce and I'm going to be using some extra ingredients. So I've chopped half a red onion, in the way that we talked about earlier. I'm also going to do half a pepper, and this is between two of us. It's nice, just strips, like that. Anyone who I've ever taught will know that I've got a bit of an affinity for peppers. I do like things a lot. You want to try and get them nice and thin, but not too thin. For a stir fry, I'd go thinner. I'm thinking like, you know, half a centimetre, that kind of thing. It's kind of a trial and error thing. Now this pepper's a bit old. I have no problem with using old ingredients. It's just a case of thinking about how you use them. They're going to be less crispy, but they'll still be fine. Ginger. This is going to be a really important ingredient. So, use a teaspoon and scrape away the skin. You want to use a teaspoon because actually it's all that you need. Why make things more difficult for yourself with sharp knives, chance of cutting your fingers? You're more likely to dig into the ginger and take away more of that lovely flavoursome root. I love ginger. Great ingredient. Of course not everyone can have it, but has got medicinal properties as well. It's good for a bad stomach. So just nip the end off there. There we are. And for this, much like with the garlic, but without the crushing, you want to chop it as thinly as you can, really. I like to get it super thin. I mean, I'm not going to go down the route of, is it Goodfellas, the movie where he's cutting garlic with a razor blade? I'm not going to go that far. Now you have to push down a little bit harder for this, but again, I've got a super sharp knife, so it's cutting through relatively easily. I'm not using much pressure at all, and that means that if I do slip, which is, let's be honest, incredibly likely with someone as clumsy as me, in fact I did just slip slightly there and very narrowly miss my fingers, because I'm not pressing too hard, my body can immediately pull back, and that's why I'm not bleeding. Super sharp knives. You can get a knife sharpener from plenty of places like IKEA. Really straightforward. Who knows, might even show you how to sharpen knives at some point. So, that's all the veg. Now we need to think about the chicken, because this is going to be a chicken curry as well. How are we going to prepare that? So, chicken. I've got a separate chicken chopping board and a separate chicken knife. You may have noticed, if you've got a catering background, and I assume you don't, because if you've got a catering background, why the hell are you watching my videos? Anyway, you may have noticed that I went beef, pork, chicken. I've got separate chopping boards for everything, but just in case I cross-contaminate, I'm going down the order of how much of a difference it would make. Chicken is notorious for giving folk food poisoning. Pork, you don't really want to be eating that raw, very dodgy. Beef, lamb, much less so. So that's why I've done it. If I do need to use the same knife over again, I'll use a dilute bleach solution. And I'll always use dilute bleach solution on a chopping board after chicken and pork as well. And probably after beef. You can find what kind of solution you need available online. So I'm using chicken thighs for this curry because although they're a little bit cheaper, I do prefer the flavour, and they chunk up quite nicely, and I'm going for chunks. So, depending on the heat that you're cooking chicken, you want to cut it to different thicknesses. Now I'm going to be cooking it on a high but not the highest heat, so I'm going for about the thickness of my little finger. If I were doing a stir fry, I'd probably cut it a little thinner. If I was doing anything lower and slower, then I'd be going for a bit thicker, chunkier pieces. Keeps it more succulent. Thing is, you can overcook chicken in an attempt to to try to make sure that you don't end up with food poisoning, because you have to cook it thoroughly. And the higher the temperature, the shorter the window that you've got to make sure that you don't overcook it. So that's why I'm going for those kind of sizes, because if it's thinner it won't need as much cooking, and you can, you know, not take the risk on it, but you're more likely to get it right if you're trying to cook it right. It's likely to taste better, because if you're doing it really super thin, you know, your chicken will be cooked through safely in seconds. It needs to be the same texture all the way through when you cooked it. Now well, I was planning to do 2 chicken breasts actually, but I've ended up cutting 3. So here we are. But for chicken curry, 2 people, a chicken thigh each would be absolutely fine. But as it is, actually, I think this is going to stretch to an extra portion, so 3 probably isn't a bad thing. So I'll bleach all this, not the chicken, we're not in the States, and then we'll have a look at how to cook it. So for the chicken curry, I didn't think about this properly, and I actually put the oil in the pan to warm up like we did with the onion and ginger mixture in the first place, which is exactly what we do need to do, but I forgot I was going to put the spices in first. But it doesn't matter, even if the oil's there, we can add some spices. It just doesn't toast in quite the same way. So I'm going to add some cumin, and I'm going to add about probably half a teaspoon per person. I'm going to add some garam masala, again about half a teaspoon per person. I'm going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper. For all of this, I mean, I'm going to add more heat to this later. I like spicy food, some people don't, but the thing is you can add chilies in, and you add those in just before you add the sauce. You know, give them a couple of minutes to cook, or you can add chili powder, add that in with your spices. So, okay, that seems nicely well behaved. We're now going to add the onions. Now these are red onions, they're a bit sweeter. Out of the way, teaspoon. We're not going to add the peppers, at least I'm going to try not to. We are going to add the ginger. It's a nice little bit of hiss. So, there's a little bit of a shake. I'm going to stick a lid on those. Turn the heat right down. Give it about 10 minutes for that amount, 10 or 15 minutes, just like we did before. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes. Let's just have a look. Oh, I wish you could smell what I'm smelling right now. Ooh, yeah, that's good. So, onions are all nice and soft. Ginger's nice and soft as well. So, let's just move them to one side. Now for this next bit, obviously again it depends if you are vegan or not, but I'm going to whack the temperature up and I'm going to put some butter and some more oil in. So, a bit of butter, and I want to now get the oil in quite quickly because the butter's just starting to melt. A little splash of oil. This way the butter doesn't burn on. If you're vegan, obviously you're not going to use butter, but if you want that real sort of I say authentic, you know, but most curries have got ghee in them, and butter helps to you know, bring a bit of that kind of flavour in. So that's heating up quite nicely. Going to chuck the peppers in while it's still heating up, so you can hear it's not quite heated up yet. Now if you've got gas, this is going to happen much quicker. So moving the peppers to the outside. Okay, temperature's starting to pick up now, so moving it all to the outside. The reason I'm moving it to the outside is because the main heat on this hob is directly underneath. So, just move that oil around a little bit more again. the chicken. So, in goes the chicken, and we're going to try and seal it. So that's basically applying heat to it to make one side go white. That's what we're looking for. Looking for like a white colouring. Now, chicken thighs have got a fair bit of fat on them, so you are going to see some white bits like that. But you'll see when I start flipping it over what I mean. Once it's sealed, we can start adding liquid and we can start cooking it down, and it can sit for as long as it wants. But it's nice to get it sealed because it gets that sort of fried flavour, creates a nicer texture. It can be a bit rubbery and soft if you haven't sealed it. Right, it's really hissing now, so that's the temperature picking up. Have a look. Yeah, it looks like it's starting to seal, so I'm going to give that a few more seconds. And it really is only seconds that you need. Start flipping it over. Yeah, there we go. So white, slightly brown from the spices, but at this point it's not particularly cooked. So just bear that in mind, it's still very, very raw. The way to check that chicken is cooked is that the juices run clear through it. Or failing that, it should be firm. So if you pick it up and squeeze it, it should be firm. Let it cool first, of course. So I'm going to seal all of this, and then I'm going to add the sauce. Okay, so it's all sealed now, which means I'm going to stir this all in together now. Now this only took a couple of minutes. You don't want to overcook it. This is the point where it's really easy to overcook the chicken. So there we go. Right. Now we're going to add the sauce. So I'm going to turn the heat down. It's going to take a while for that to drop. Now this is about 2 ladlefuls. It's the last amount of sauce. I always do a curry last because it doesn't matter so much whether there's a load of sauce or whether there's not. The recipe can take it. So, okay, there we go. Actually, I need to turn that up a bit. It's about 6. There we go. Right. So it's now all sort of picking up. There we are. Give it a shake. Give it a spin. There we are. Right. So a bit of lemon. It's an old lemon. Doesn't matter. But I've got half a lemon, and I'm going to squeeze it in. You can use a fancy lemon squeezer, but nah, whatever. Save your money. There we go. Lemon juice in a cut. Ooh. Anyway, yeah, so that lemon juice is going to mix with the spice that you've added in. It's going to really tenderise that chicken, so you can cook it for longer, lower and slower. It's going to be really tender. That's why you don't overcook it to start with, because it's going to cook for long enough. It'll be fine. So last thing to do for this particular recipe is I'm going to chuck in some spinach. Got a bag of spinach, a little bit old now, haven't been shopping for a while, see. And I'm going to add it in handfuls, like this, keeping it within the pan. There we go. Sticking the lid on, and then once there's enough room, I mean it'll only take a couple of minutes for that to cook down. Once there's enough room, then I'll put some more spinach in. Now I'm going to reduce the heat down to 3 now. Now I've put the lid on, I'm going to reduce the heat down to 3. This will maintain just enough heat throughout the whole process. So let's cook that spinach in, see how it goes. So I've managed to get all the handfuls of spinach in now, and I've just been folding it over like this to get the spinach down and in there as well. I've had to turn the heat up a tiny bit because it wasn't really cooking down, so we're now up to what, 5, but I'm keeping it low. And there we go. So it's now just getting it all stirred in. spinach wilts down quite a lot. I mean, that was a whole bag. That's like 260 grams of spinach. It's gone into that really easily. Spinach is nutritious, you know, plenty of iron in it. It's good for you. In fact, that was the whole point of Popeye. You know, the cartoon Popeye. The idea was to try to get people to eat spinach. It is good for you, and it tastes good in a curry like this. Now, if I were making a curry like this for myself, I'd be using a lot more spice, particularly more heat. You know, I'd be using a lot more chili, but I'm giving you this to get you started, to see what you think. And then you can adapt your recipes. Don't forget, you can add spice in, but you can't take it out. Although, having said that, if it does get too hot, you can always add coconut milk. And that's really effective for just, it takes the heat out of the front of your mouth and just moves it a bit more throughout the rest of your mouth. Yogurt does the same thing as well. It just makes it less aggressive, less abrasive. So you could add yogurt or coconut milk in at this point, or even later, you know, right towards the end, and it would be absolutely fine. And it would be a really good way to just knock some of that heat out. I actually quite like a very hot but slightly yogurty curry. Only a little bit. You only need, like, for a dish this size, half of that. Maybe a full one if you like it yogurty. You don't need much, but it just brings a certain smoothness to it and means you're not coughing and choking. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, this is coming along quite nicely. It's about, what, 5-10 minutes afterwards. So I'm going to give it a stir. Yeah, so it's quite wet again now. You know, all the moisture's coming out of the spinach. So I'm going to take the lid off and going to cook it down until, again, it's not too runny. So just give it a shake, give it a spin, and we'll leave it to cook down a bit. I reckon another 10 or 15 minutes and that should be about right. Okay, that's looking quite good now. It's there's most of that moisture is gone. It's now being left with that sort of nice, thick, rich sauce. So I think, yeah, I'm happy that that's done. So heat off. We'll let that cool naturally. So, any questions, obviously let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching and see you next time.